It is time to brace ourselves for a prequel film where a villain will rise.
Yo, dudes, the Empire's pretty chill. Maybe you could, join it or something.
Hey everyone, Lucimus Prime here. So it's time for another movie review today, and it's going to be for the last review I'm going to be doing in the franchise, which is Typical Me. And this is for, of course, the film released in 2022 as the second prequel of the franchise, and also acting as a sequel to the 2015 movie Minions. And this, of course, is a film which of course, is about the origin story of the franchise's main character, Thelonious GRU. And that film, of course, is none other than 2022's Minions, The Rise of GRU. So, now, how was this film made then? So after, of course, the film Minions somehow got success, and I say somehow because I personally hate that movie, a sequel was deemed inevitable to happen to it, and ideas then began in August 2017, and the film was then, of course, was produced in the following years, and production then moved on to remote work during, of course, the COVID-19 pandemic, after Illumination Studios shut down in Paris due to it. And to incorporate 1970s culture and environment into the film, Wade Eastwood and Rick Mayers were hired as creative consultants, while Flora Zhao joined in as a cultural consultant on Chinese culture. And the film was then completed on July 1st, 2020, and was also dedicated in memory of the animator Madeline Montero, who died during production. May she rest in peace. The film was then released after being delayed for 2 years on June 13, 2022, when it was premiered at the Annecy International Animation Film Festival, and was then physically released in the United States on July 1st. Now, compared to, of course, the reaction to the first Minions movie, this one, however, got positive reviews from critics, who deemed it an improvement over its predecessor, which I couldn't agree more with praise earned for its score, animation, humour, voice performances, and the aesthetic, although the plot was criticised. It was also a commercial success, grossing over $940 million worldwide, and it became the 5th highest grossing film of 2022. When it comes to my reaction to this film then, so after I, of course, absolutely hated Minions, and nowadays I'm not really much a fan of Typical Me 3 like I used to be, I was really concerned about this film, and I was reluctant to see it when it was being made. I wasn't sure if it was going to be successful or not because of how the franchise really was declining. And when the film also released its trailers, they didn't even look promising or good in my opinion. They looked pretty concerning too, and that further cemented my concerns for this film. However, when several of my friends and YouTubers that I watch saw the film and loved it, it gave me hope that I'd love it too. So, one day when I was free and not busy with anything, I gave this film a watch, and I've got to say that just like my friends and those who saw it and loved it, I also loved it. This was definitely, in my opinion, a massive return to form for a franchise, absolutely, and I definitely really loved it. And it's definitely, for me, my third favourite in the franchise behind the first 2 movies. I've rewatched it many times as well, and of course have a hit on Blu-ray as well, and I rewatched it preparing for this review, and to this day I love the movie. So, now what is this movie about then? So, in this film, this of course features the story of GRU's origin story where he's 11 years old, and he plans to become a supervillain with the help of his minions, which leads to a showdown with a malevolent team called the Vicious Six. So, now what do I think is great about this film then? So I definitely would say that the cast do a great job in this film, which is definitely why I think it's a massive improvement over the first Minions movie. So Steve Carell, of course, reprises his role as GRU in this film, and this time, of course, the character is 11 years old. And I think Steve Carell did a really brilliant job playing GRU as a child in this film, and definitely a different kind of performance to what he had before, where he sounded younger. I think he did a really great job as him, in my opinion. Did a really brilliant job. And I also, as well, think Pierre Coffin did a really good job returning as the voice for Minions too as well in this film. He was good who was given, and I also really appreciate how this film focused on GRU this time, compared to, of course, the first Minions film, where the Minions were the centre of attention. I love how this film gave us the prequel we wanted, which was GRU's origin story. I really appreciate that, so I'm so glad that Carl Balder, who directed this film, went with that direction. And also Brian Lynch and Matthew Vogel, who wrote it, went that way as well, definitely. And When it comes as well to the Vicious Six in this film, I definitely really like them in this film, voiced by lots of great actors. One that I definitely really loved was Wild Knuckles, who was voiced by Alan Arkin, may he rest in peace. I think in this film he did a really great job voicing Wild Knuckles in this. I think he did a really brilliant job. This was sadly his final film to be released while he was still alive, because he unfortunately, of course, passed away last year, so rest in peace, Alan Arkin. But I think in this film he did a brilliant job playing Wild Knuckles. I also really like Taraji P. Henson as Bell Bottom as well, who's the disco-themed Master Thief in The Vicious Six. I think she was very good as her in this film. I think she did a really great job. Definitely, in my opinion, much better than a voice in Robert Vincent, that's for sure. Most definitely. I think Taraji P. Henson was much better in this than that. I also definitely really love Michelle Yeoh in this as Master Cho, who's the acupuncturist, who's part of the Vicious Six. She's my favourite Malaysian actress of all time, one of my favourites in general, and I think in this film she was brilliant as her. And it's one of my favourite roles of Michelle after, of course, characters like, for example, of course, the Suicide in Kung Fu Panda 2 and Ares and Transformers Rise of the Beasts. I think in this film she was great as Master Chow. And I also, as well, definitely loved as well the addition of Jean-Claude Van Damme as, of course, a villain with a lobster claw for his right arm, who's literally called Jean-Claude, as a pun on his name, Jean-Claude Van Damme. Jean-Claude Van Damme was really great as him in this film, and he's also my favourite Belgian actor as well, and I think in this film he was really great as Jean-Claude. I also as well love the addition as well of Dolph Lundgren as Vengeance, who of course is a roller skater Vicious Six member. He was actually pretty good as him too as well, and also the legend being Danny Trejo as Stronghold as well, and also Lucy Lawless as Nunchuck. And when it comes to those who also returned from previous movies, one reason why I'd say this film is much better than the first film is mainly because of fan service with regards to fan favourite characters. Because not only does it bring back GRU as, of course, the main character and give up the story we all wanted of his origin story, it also brings out lots of familiar faces. For example, I love the return of Russell Brand as Dr. Nefario. I love that he came back in this, and we got to see his origin story where he runs a record store, which of course is a pun called Criminal Records, which was pretty funny. And Russell Brand has always done a great job playing Nefario in this. And when it comes to others who return, I also love the return of Dame Julie Andrews as Marlena GRU, who's GRU's mother. I love how we got to see her again. Julie Andrews is a legend, and I must say, she definitely sounded pretty young in this film, considering she was playing a younger version of Marlena. Definitely did a very good job as her in this. And I also, as well, love how this film brought back several familiar faces in terms of cameos. For example, one particular thing that I did love about this film was how, of course, Wild Knuckles and GRU go to, of course, the bank, where, of course, they end up in the Bank of Evil, and we get to see Mr. Perkins come back voiced once again by Will Arnett, and even showing him a picture of his son Vector as well, which is definitely really awesome. I love seeing that. We also got to see the Anti-Villain League also appear too, and also Silas came back voiced once again by Steve Coogan, and that was definitely really cool to see. Like, tons of fan service in this film with regards to characters returning. So yeah, the cast of this film all did a really brilliant job. Another great thing about this film for me is also as well when it comes as well to of course the story, because you can definitely tell when watching this film that of course the makers of this film listened to, of course, the criticism towards Minions, and they wanted to make a better film, and you can really tell in this film because it tells us the story of course GRU's childhood and his origin story, and that's just what we wanted to see. I love seeing that, and I thought that was brilliant. And I also, as well, definitely think as well that this story also works really well when it comes to the rest of the franchise, because in my canon, guys, the Disney Movie franchise is only this film and then the first two films as a perfect trilogy right there. Because the beauty of this film is you don't even need to watch the first Minions film to understand it. You can literally skip that film and go straight to this film, and you're missing nothing. Because this film, thankfully, doesn't even acknowledge it, which I really appreciated. Because that film I hate, and I'm so glad this film didn't mention it at all. And another great thing about this film is also the animation. The animation of this film is a big step up compared to before. And you can tell we did a great job making it look really great. And many shots also look realistic as well, which I definitely really liked. I also as well love the musical score by Heitor Pereira. Definitely really great in this to listen to. Also did a great job composing the music. And I also as well definitely really like the pacing of this film, because this film is 87 minutes in terms of its runtime, and in my opinion it's really well paced. It doesn't feel too short or too fast or like too slow or anything like that. In my opinion, it's paced really well, and I think we did a really good job with the story of this film. Like, I mean, less than 90 minutes, but still, in my opinion, really well paced. I think we did a really great job with it. And I also as well love how this film had lots of great messages. For example, of course, the message of mentorship when it comes to GRU, because he learns, of course, that even bad guys need help, which is why he shares good chemistry with Wild Knuckles. And they definitely had good chemistry in this film, you can definitely tell, especially when, of course, in the Bank of Evil scene as well, which was pretty cool. And I definitely, as well, I think that this film was just what we needed, of course, for his franchise to save it. Absolutely. When it comes to fan service, there's tons of it. So I've already mentioned that, of course, we see a young Dr. Nefario and also Mr. Perkins and also, as well, the Anti-Villain League with Silas. I love how there's a scene, of course, in the cafe where GRU uses his cheese, rates to splatter cheese all over the customers, which is definitely a really cool reference to his freeze ray from the first movie. And then also, as well, we see as well, it's the furniture from in Wild Knuckles, his place that he lives at, is the same one that GRU would use later on. And also, as well, how when GRU goes back home from school, we hear the Despicable Me theme song, which I definitely loved hearing, which is a nice nod to what came afterwards. And we as well get a really nice post-credit scene where we see, of course, Dr. Nefario accepting GRU to be his scientist, which is really great to see. And then he gives GRU the plane that he rides in. So yeah, that was just really great to see right there. I really appreciated how this film gave lots of fan service to us, absolutely. I'd say this was a prequel we all needed, most definitely. The film of a franchise we really needed. And that, to me, of course, was a great way to like, put a franchise together full circle as a trilogy, being this film and the first two films. Absolutely. Definitely, in my opinion, a really great film with lots of great character and also really funny humour. Because compared to the first film's attempts at humour, I laughed lots of times watching the film because it was just so funny. Like, this is just how you do, like, something as a comeback for a franchise to save it. Absolutely. But if I was thinking about quality of this film then, so maybe some of the humour may not have been, that funny. For example, maybe the talk humour was a bit too far, really. It wasn't that good in my opinion. Some of it was really that funny, I must say. When it comes as well to the Minions, there's a new one that's introduced in this film called Otto. But the problem is, he appears in this film, which is a prequel to the first two films, but he doesn't even appear in the next films for some reason, which is very strange. So I don't understand why they introduced a Minion in this film, only for him to not appear later on. That was pretty strange. And also as well, another thing that was also confusing as well about this is also as well the timeline, because the film takes place in 1976, which is 8 years after the first Minions movie. And at the end of that film, we do see young GRU, of course, stealing the crown and flying off. But the thing is, in an 8-year gap, he's not aged, which is really strange. Because in this film, he's supposed to be 11, which means 8 years before he'd have been 3. But in this film, he's not aged at all since then, so that was really confusing, really. So it would have probably made more sense if he was a teenager in this film, but it was still pretty confusing for, really, what I will say when it comes to that. So they could have maybe just explained it as him getting older as a teenager, maybe, or something, but even so, it was still pretty confusing when it comes to a timeline. But other than that, though, I still absolutely love Minions Rise of GRU. It's definitely the film we needed for this franchise. And to me, it's a great way to end the franchise too, because while I love this film, it personally, however, did not make me excited for more films, because I personally think Despicable Me is a franchise that really needs to end now. I really do. Because I think it was perfect as it was, as this film and the first two films. I've already said that, of course, Despicable Me 2, of course, gave a great ending to the franchise. Despicable Me 3 ruined that ending, unfortunately, which is why I'm not a fan of that film nowadays. And also, I've also heard from several people who saw the fourth film not really good things about it, so it looks like they've unfortunately not learned from their mistakes making the third movie. So I have no plans to see Despicable Me 4 or any more films with the franchise. Just please let it end now. I'll stick to this film and the first two films of a franchise. That's what I'll do. When it comes to sort of give it 1 out of 10 then, so because it's my favourite in the franchise and I definitely love it, I'll definitely give Minions Rise of GRU, or I'll call it Despicable Me Rise of GRU, a solid 8 out of 10. It's a prequel we needed, and I like to call it Despicable Me Rise of GRU because the film's about GRU, not Minions. So guys, this is me, of course, doing my review for Minions Rise of GRU. So, you know the drill, guys. Be sure to give this video a like. Also, be sure to leave comments what you guys think of Minions Rise of GRU. Let me know in the comments below what you think of it. Also, be sure to join the team, press and subscribe if it's coming in the future. And I'll see you all later.